Discover the incredible secret. 7 heartwarming steps to building your life-changing nest. Inspire. Emily awoke before dawn, the faint light of morning just beginning to creep through the cracked window of her childhood home. The floorboards creaked under her weary feet as she tiptoed to the kitchen, where she could already hear the whispers of Leah and Max stirring in their dreams. It was just another day in the heart of a small Midwestern town, another day of juggling breakfast, a chaotic routine, and 2 part-time jobs that barely kept the lights on. Every creak of the house felt like an echo of her parents' laughter, a comforting reminder of love mingled with sorrow. She was a single mother, and the weight of that title often felt like a heavy stone around her neck. Outside, Leah and Max were already rumbling with excitement, their laughter floating through the air, piercing the stillness like bright rays of sunlight hitting a worn-out swing set. Emily's heart swelled, bittersweet, wishing she could do more for them. She flipped pancakes, the sizzling batter a soothing melody in her ears. But buried beneath the surface were judgments from neighbors, whispers about single motherhood, and the social stigma around financial hardship. "Why can't she get it together?" she had overheard once. It stung like a bee sting, venomous and raw. But just as swiftly, she reminded herself she wasn't alone. Neighbors occasionally lent a helping hand, delivering meals or inviting them to local events. Community warmth was a balm to her soul, a comfort amid the chaos of her life. Then came the life-altering opportunity. Mark appeared, the local entrepreneur with a radiant smile and a vision that was contagious. His passion for transforming the community sparked something within Emily. He offered her a chance to revitalize her home through a transformation program, a chance to rebuild more than just walls, to rebuild her spirit. Yet doubt gnawed at her. Did she deserve this? Shouldn't she be strong enough to do it all alone? As they painted walls and discussed floor plans, a deeper, unspoken connection formed. With every brush stroke, laughter bubbled between them, unveiling their vulnerabilities. Emily fought against her past, her insecurities wrestling with hope. She sensed Mark's kindness, but it felt too good to be true. But then, just as the paint was drying, Emily's estranged brother re-entered her life, a specter from the past. The childhood trauma they endured together resurfaced like an unwelcome guest, demanding confrontation. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. Pain materialized, and as memories flooded back, Emily felt her chest tighten. Would she ever forgive him? Would the community that sometimes judged her finally rally around her in this desperate moment? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the chaos swirled around her, Emily felt something shift inside. A strength she never knew she possessed began to rise, urging her to confront the chains of her past. Could she really embrace her worth? Would forgiveness for herself and her brother set her free? The thought danced at the edges of her mind, tantalizing and terrifying. With everything on the line, Emily stood on the precipice of transformation. Would she take the leap? Would the American dream of rebuilding her life and family begin here? The answers lingered in the air, just out of reach, promising hope or perhaps despair. Emily stood frozen, the paintbrush quivering slightly in her hand. The world around her faded, and all she could hear were the echoes of her past and the laughter of Leah and Max. They were 2 bright spots in her life, yet fear tightened its grip around her heart. Could she open the door to forgiveness and let it flood her home? Mark's voice broke through her thoughts, grounding her. He was leaning against the doorframe with a worried look, concern creasing his brow. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I need a moment," she replied, her voice shaky. She turned away, not wanting him to see the turmoil brewing within her. "Take all the time you need. I'll be outside if you want to talk." His kind words laced with understanding hung in the air, wrapping around her like a warm hug. Emily took a deep breath and glanced out the window. Max and Leah were playing tag, their giggles dancing with the breeze. The sheer joy on their faces sparked something inside her, a flicker of hope. It reminded her of her own childhood before everything had gone awry. There had been laughter, love and dreams. Could she reclaim that? Every inch of her recoiled at the idea of facing her brother. She remembered too vividly the hurt of betrayal, the weight of silence that had stretched for years. But the thought of her children knowing only strife and division compelled her to act. For them she wanted peace, not just for herself but for their home. With determination pooling in her stomach, she stepped outside. The fresh air brushed against her skin, washing away some of the heaviness in her chest. Mark was kneeling beside a bucket of paint, his back to her. She could sense his patience, the way he honored her space without pushing too hard. "Hey," she said, her voice softer now that he turned, a hint of relief passing over his features. "Hey, I think I need to talk about my brother," she confessed, the words pouring out before she could overthink them. "I don't know how to face him, but I can't keep running away, not anymore." Mark's gaze held steady, encouragement shining through. "You can do this, Emily. You're stronger than you know. You've already taken the first step by acknowledging it." Her heart raced. Part of her still wanted to retreat into the comfort of denial, where things were simpler, but the bond she was building with Mark kept drawing her in. It was like a lifeline in an ocean of uncertainty. "What if I can't forgive him?" she whispered, vulnerability bearing her soul. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, nor does it mean you forget. It's about freeing yourself from the anger that weighs you down. Think of it as a path you can choose to take for your own peace, Mark offered gently. Emily took a step closer, grappling with hope and fear. This conversation felt like one they'd had before, but it was different now. This time it was grounded in a shared dream of healing. "What do I do next?" she asked, leaning into the warmth of support that surrounded them. "Let us bring your brother back into your life on your terms. But first tell me how you want to approach it. What does success look like for you?" She paused, letting the question settle in her mind. As the sun began to rise higher, illuminating everything with warmth, she envisioned not just a house but a home filled with laughter and love. A place where Leah and Max could flourish without shadows looming over them. The determination coursed through her veins, igniting a fire. She had to be brave even when it was hard. "I want to have dinner with him, just the three of us. I need to hear him out." A smile broke out on Mark's face. "That's a good start. Then let us make it happen." As they picked up their paint brushes again, Emily felt a buoy of courage lifting her with every stroke. Hope began to weave its way through the tapestry of her life, colorful and bold, and maybe, just maybe, she could find joy again. The thought left her buzzing with both fear and excitement. Would this lead to healing, or would the past consume her? As she considered the weight of her next steps, an unexpected knock on the door shattered her reverie. Emily's heart plummeted. Who could that be at this time? With her pulse racing, she exchanged a questioning glance with Mark. The next push felt like it was coming. Would it be the confrontation that changed everything? Emily stood frozen at the open door, her breath hitching in her throat. She could feel Mark's comforting presence behind her, but all she could see was the entranceway that led to the unknown. The knock echoed in her mind, a countdown to a moment she had both anticipated and dreaded. "Should I answer it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark moved to her side, his expression serious but encouraging. "You've got this, Em. Whatever or whoever it is, you're not alone." Taking a deep breath, she nodded, steeling her resolve. She opened the door fully and stood face to face with a familiar figure, one she hadn't expected to see. "Emily," Jason said, his voice low and edged with uncertainty. Her brother, the source of so much pain, stood there looking vulnerable in a way she hadn't seen in years. He looked older, wearier, a man shaped by time and regret. "Jason," she replied, the name caught in her throat, heavy with mixed emotions. The memories flooded back, uninvited and overwhelming. All the hurt, the betrayal, and the silence that had stretched out in their family were wrapped up in that single name. I didn't know if you'd want to see me," he continued, his eyes shifting to the ground. A chill swept through her as she realized he was here to bridge a chasm that had felt insurmountable for so long. "What do you want, Jason?" she asked, her voice sharper than she intended. A surge of anger mixed with the wild ebb of hope threatened to spill over. "I need to talk. I want to explain, to apologize. I've thought about it every day since he trailed off," and Emily could see the pain behind his eyes. "I messed everything up, Em. I know that." She felt a mix of emotions swirling within: hurt, anger, a flicker of longing for the past. Just the sight of him stirred up things she still hadn't processed. The memories of childhood laughter faded into the background of their shared grief. "Why now?" she asked, folding her arms tightly as if to shield herself. "Why after all this time?" "Because I'm tired of being frozen in the past. I'm tired of avoiding you, of hiding from what I did. I want to be part of your life again if you'd let me," he pleaded, his voice steady but edged with vulnerability. Emily glanced at Mark, who stood a little behind her, a reassuring anchor amid the emotional storm swirling inside her. She turned back to Jason, trying to decipher the sincerity in his gaze. Was this real? Or just another moment of hollow promises? Maybe I'll consider it," Emily said, cautiously opening the door a little wider, both literally and metaphorically. The slight shift felt momentous, like an unraveling thread that might lead to something more. A chance for healing. "Just give me a chance, Em. I want to explain all the things I never had the courage to say," Jason implored, hope flickering in his eyes. The weight of the moment pressed down on her. Her heart was racing. This could either lead to the healing she sought or dredge up more pain. "Okay," she said finally, surprising even herself. "Let us sit down and talk. But I need honesty, Jason. No more hiding." Jason nodded, relief washing over his features. He stepped inside, and Emily felt both terrified and thrillingly alive. This was the moment she had been preparing for. The confrontation that could change everything. As they settled around the small kitchen table, she glanced at Mark, who gave her an encouraging smile. The room felt charged with anticipation. She knew the conversation wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face it. For Leah, for Max, and for herself. Then, as they began to share words that could either mend or break, another knock came at the door, this time more insistent. Emily's heart sank. Who could it be now? An uneasy tension filled the air. And as she exchanged glances with Jason, she couldn't shake the feeling that something more was about to shift dramatically. Would this be a door she could open completely, or was she on the brink of unraveling yet again? Emily's heart raced, the sudden knock pulling her focus away from the fragile moment unfolding at the table. Jason's eyes widened, mirroring the confusion swirling in her head. Mark, sensing her unease, moved to the door with cautious resolve. "Stay here," he whispered to Emily as he reached for the handle. "Wait," she said, a mix of panic and curiosity bubbling to the surface. "What if it's someone else? Someone who could complicate things?" Mark paused, glancing back at her. They shared an unspoken understanding of the importance of managing their emotions carefully. The past was already burdened enough. With a careful pull, Mark opened the door. The chill from the outside brushed against them, a stark contrast to the warmth of the kitchen, and Emily's breath hitched again. Standing in the doorway was an elderly woman, her white hair framing her face like a halo, eyes twinkling with kindness and a tinge of surprise. "Forgive me for intruding," she said, her voice soft yet strong. "I was passing by and thought I saw you from the street. You must be Emily, dear. What do you need?" Emily managed, her curiosity piqued despite the tumult in her heart. The woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Harrington, had come to deliver news that rattled the fragile peace they'd started building. "I've lived next door for over 30 years. I remember your family well. I stopped by often when you were little." Jason shifted in his seat, the color draining from his face. Emily felt the tension in the room shift again, heavier this time, as memories flickered like old film reels. "I wanted to let you know that I've seen your brother since everything happened," Mrs. Harrington continued, focusing her gentle gaze on Jason. "He has been working hard to turn things around. I think he really wants the best for you both." The words struck like thunder, creating a ripple in the carefully placed emotional boundaries around the table. Jason opened his mouth to speak but remained silent, caught in the echoes of guilt. "Why didn't he ever talk to me?" Emily asked Mrs. Harrington, her voice trembling. "I needed him." The older woman took a step back, discomfort flickering in her expression. "Sometimes people struggle with their decisions, dear. They think they don't deserve to reach out. But I assure you your brother has changed. He is fighting to make amends." Emily felt the weight of that statement settle in her chest. Could it be true? Was his desire for a renewed connection genuine? She locked eyes with Jason. 1,000 unspoken words hung between them, the air thick with possibility. Mark stepped forward with a reassuring presence. We're trying to figure things out here, he said, breaking the silence. But it's tough. If there's one thing we've learned, it's that change isn't instantaneous. I understand, Mrs. Harrington replied gently. I just believe that sometimes the right message comes at the wrong time. Give it thought. Your brother deserves a chance and so do you. With that, she bid them farewell, bringing an unexpected closure to her visit, but leaving lingering questions in her wake. As she stepped away, Emily felt the door close on more than just Mrs. Harrington's remarks. It felt like it closed on years of unresolved issues, sealing them back inside while opening space for something different. Turning back to Jason, she sensed both hope and fear in the air. Did you hear that? She said, her voice rising just above a whisper. What are you really doing, Jason? Can you truly change? For the first time, his eyes held a raw vulnerability. I'm trying to. As emotions surged, the rhythm of their heartbeats echoed in the silence surrounding them. Just when Emily thought they might finally dive into the murky waters of honesty, another knock boomed against the door, louder this time, an urgent plea to be let in. Who now? She murmured, dread creeping back in. What if this just complicates everything again? Jason clenched his fists, his expression betraying a mix of fear and anticipation. Would they be able to unravel the truths they'd just begun? Or was this knock the answer to all they needed to face? Emily held her breath as Mark hesitated. The air around them felt electric, charged with insecurity and the weight of the moment. The persistence of that knock felt like it reverberated through the very bones of their strained relationship. What do we do? Jason's voice barely rose above a whisper, each word trembling with uncertainty. Mark stepped toward the door again, purpose edging his actions. It's best to find out who it is. We can't let fear dictate our choices. He looked at both of them fiercely, as if trying to bolster their courage with his own. With a resigned nod, Mark turned the knob and pulled the door open, the hinges creaking slightly in protest. The chill of the outside air rushed in, and a shadowy figure loomed beyond the threshold. Emily squinted, trying to make sense of the sudden darkness, and then she saw him, Ryan, her brother. His hair was unkempt and his eyes bore the traces of sleepless nights. He stood on the doorstep, hands stuffed nervously into his jacket pockets. The sight made her heart leap, yet it also screamed danger. Hey, he said, voice unsteady, like he was testing the waters with each word. Can I come in? Ryan, Emily breathed out, a surge of emotions bubbling up inside her. Confusion, anger, a flicker of hope. How could he just show up? Was he ready to face the past? At her silence, Ryan's anxiety seemed to grow more pronounced. I wasn't sure if you'd want to see me, but I needed to talk. I heard what Mrs. Harrington said. I want to explain, to apologize. Mark stepped aside, allowing Ryan to enter but standing his ground, protective of Emily and the fragile truce they had begun to build. Jason remained tense, fiddling with the edge of the tablecloth as if it could absorb their unspoken fears. What do you want, Ryan? Jason finally asked, his voice low and cautious. I want to be a part of your lives again, Ryan said, his gaze darting between his sister and brother, remorse shining in his teary eyes. I've messed up so much. But I'm trying to do better. Each word sounded heavy, laden with the burdens of their shared history. Emily clenched her fists, battling the pull between her heart and her mind. Could she trust him? Did he really want to change? Or was this just another fleeting moment of clarity enveloped in a web of old habits? And you expect us to believe you? She challenged, the coldness in her tone surprising even her. You just show up after years after everything that went down? Why should I trust you now? His shoulders sagged, a flicker of defeat flashing across his face. I know I messed up. But I've been working on myself. I promise I'm not that person anymore. I just want a chance. Mark exchanged a glance with Emily, his expression a mixture of concern and anticipation. What does that mean for you, Ryan? He asked, leaning against the doorway in an effort to instill some order in the chaos. What steps have you taken? Taking a breath, Ryan straightened up. I've been going to meetings. I've got a job now. Even a place to stay. I've been trying to put the pieces back together, starting with me. Jason huffed, nearly sarcastic. So, you think you can just waltz back in? Like you haven't destroyed everything? Jason. Emily snapped, unable to hide her frustration. The tension between the brothers sizzled and threatened to explode, But deep down, she understood Jason's protective nature. Please, Ryan pleaded, voice thick with emotion. I'm here to make amends. That has to count for something, right? Emily's heart pounded in her chest, torn between the past that trapped her and the faint glimmer of hope Ryan presented. She had spent so much time building walls around her heart. But what if some part of those walls could finally come down? Just tell me, she whispered, the tremor in her voice belying her anxiety. What does this really mean for us? Before Ryan could answer, Jason interrupted sharply. Are we really doing this? After all he's put us through? The uncertainty in the room was palpable, thickening the air. Emily felt her heart race, realizing this was a defining moment. They stood on the precipice of change, uncertain of which way to leap, and just then, another knock echoed through the house. This time softer but no less insistent. Who could that be? Mark murmured, but deep down, Emily felt a different kind of dread creeping in. What fresh complication awaited them? As she met Jason's worried gaze, she recognized the challenge before them. The answers they sought could be just outside their door. But now they had to decide: face them as a family or risk the unraveling threads of their fragile unity once more. The atmosphere shifted dramatically as the second knock reverberated through the room. Emily's heartbeat quickened, each thud echoing her inner conflict. She looked between Ryan, who fidgeted with eagerness, and Jason, whose posture was rigid with skepticism. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, and she could feel the weight of their past pressing down on everyone in the room. Who is it? Ryan asked, his anxiety clawing at him. I'm honestly not sure, Mark replied, voice steady but laced with curiosity. He glanced over his shoulder, considering their precarious situation. I'll check. As Mark approached the door again, Emily wished she could shield them all from whatever storm might be waiting outside. The very idea of confrontation churned in her stomach. She wished for calm, for resolution, yet all she felt was an impending chaos. Mark swung the door open, and there stood Mrs. Harrington, her presence striking and serious. She was a matriarch of sorts, the sort of person who commanded attention. Her neatly pressed clothes contrasted sharply with Ryan's rumpled appearance. I heard you all were back together, she began, her voice firm but not unkind. I thought it best to come and check on things. Mrs. Harrington, Emily started, but the look in the woman's eyes silenced her before she could finish. I know there's a lot to unpack here, she continued, her gaze darting past Emily to Ryan. But I also believe that community can play a large role in healing. We can be stronger together. Jason stepped in, arms crossed. And what exactly do you want from us now? Understanding, she replied. From all sides. Real family doesn't just give up when it gets hard. We learn. We grow. Isn't that what you're all trying to do? There was a tense silence. Emily could feel Ryan's eyes on her, searching for reassurance. Were they really supposed to open their hearts even wider to let more complications in? Can we trust you? Emily asked, the words barely escaping her lips. Will you really support us? Or is this just another chapter of pain? Mrs. Harrington regarded her with an intensity that made Emily shiver. It's about more than just trust. It's about making a choice every single day to be better, to forgive when we're hurt, to fight through our fears, and not let the past hold us hostage. Emily's heart ached. This wasn't an easy thing to digest. Forgiveness felt like a mountain she wasn't sure she could climb. The desire for family, for connection, warred with the scars left by those who once promised to love her fiercely. Ryan stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly. I want to be better for you, Em. For you and Jason. Just give me one chance, let me show you I'm different. Why now? Jason challenged, still protective. What's really different? Because I almost lost everything, Ryan confessed, his voice thick with emotion. And that made me realize what's truly important. It's you guys. I want to fight for us, for something real. Tears welled in Emily's eyes at the fierceness that filled the room. Perhaps this wasn't just another cycle of hurt. Perhaps, just perhaps, it could be a fresh start. But before she could respond, a ringing phone broke the moment. It sounded invasive and jarring. Mark fumbled for his pocket and frowned as he stared at the screen. It's the landlord, he said, eyes narrowing. We were supposed to meet today, can't it wait? Emily said quickly, desperate to hold on to this fragile moment. No. We need to deal with it, Mark replied, glancing at Ryan and then at the door, weighing his options. But this can't just be lost. She shared a look with Jason. The tension shifted again. Was it possible to regain control over their story? Do you want to try to handle this together? Mrs. Harrington offered, her voice softer now, more inviting. Family isn't just about blood. It's about the choices we make. Just then another knock echoed through the house. This time the urgency in the sound sent a shiver down Emily's spine. Who or what awaited them this time? As Ryan and Jason exchanged glances, Emily felt the air thicken again. They stood at a crossroads, an unexpected new chapter just waiting to unfold. Would they have the courage to step forward? Or would fear pull them back into the shadows? The urgency of the knock was almost palpable, a throbbing reminder of the uncertainty that loomed over them. Emily's heart raced as she glanced at Ryan, then Jason. It felt like they were suspended in time, waiting for something to happen, a reckoning or maybe an opportunity. Mark opened the door cautiously, his face a canvas of surprise. "What are you doing here?" he exclaimed, and Emily stepped forward, peering around him. Jake stood in the doorway, a familiar yet jarring presence, one that brought a rush of emotion she wasn't ready to face. He wore his usual easy smile, but it felt different this time, as if he were trying to mask something urgent underneath. "I need to talk to you all. It's important," he said, glancing nervously at Mrs. Harrington. "Now," Jason retorted, his protective stance firm. "Can't you see we're in the middle of something?" "Please," Jake said, his tone dropping to a more serious note. "It's about the house. And Emily, I think you need to hear this." Emily's instincts flared. She didn't trust Jake. Their history throbbed painfully in her mind. But in that moment of hesitation, Ryan stepped forward again, a hand touching her arm, urging her to listen. "What's going on, Jake?" "It's complicated," Jake started, swallowing hard. "But I found out something about the landlord. There's more to him than we thought. And it could affect everything." "What do you mean?" Emily asked, words spilling out with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "Let us talk inside," Mark interrupted, his voice firm. He knew the stakes had risen. Brian's earlier outburst and Mrs. Harrington's presence seemed to complicate the already fragile unity. They all stepped into the living room, the weight of the moment pressing down like a thick fog. Once seated, Jake rubbed the back of his neck, nerves evident. "I was going through some old records. I thought maybe it would help to understand our lease better until I stumbled upon something horrible. The landlord's been in trouble before, bad trouble. There are reports about him I've seen. Things that say he's not who he claims to be. People have been hurt because of him." The room fell silent, each person processing the implications behind Jake's words. Ryan turned to Emily, concern etched across his features. "Is he serious? Could he cause us more problems?" Emily felt a swirl of emotions: fear, doubt, and an unexpected gratitude that Jake had come at all. "What do we do now?" she asked, trying to keep a grip on herself, wanting clarity amidst chaos. "We need to confront him," Jake said firmly, meeting each of their gazes. "If he's putting you at risk, we might need to fight back." Jason scoffed. "Fight back? And risk it all? You want us to go after a man who could very well hold the keys to our future?" Ryan's eyes narrowed, his protective instincts firing. "Yes, right, Jason. If this guy really is a problem, we can't just stand here. We have to protect ourselves. But how? We don't know anything for certain." Jason's voice grew bitter, a stark reminder of their fractured trust. A deep breath escaped Emily as the weight of their situation settled in. "We need a plan," she declared, feeling the urgency wrap around them. "Whatever happens, we need to stand united." Before anyone could respond, Mrs. Harrington cleared her throat, her expression steady. "What if your fears are grounded in reality, but so is your choice for community? Working together, you can figure this out. That's how family supports one another, after all." As they sat with the weight of their decisions hanging in the air, Emily felt a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. They were at a crossroads once more, but something had shifted. This time there was a possibility of resolution, of control, and just as she harnessed that hope, the doorbell rang again, strangling the fragile moment. The sound echoed insistently into their already tense space, a chilling reminder that answers and perhaps more trouble awaited them just outside. Who else was coming? Did they have the strength to face it? As they exchanged anxious glances, the urgency in the room shifted, and Emily felt her resolve waver. She needed to know how far they were willing to go to protect what they had begun to build. What were the lines they wouldn't cross? The doorbell rang again, slicing through the thick tension that filled the room. Emily's heart raced anew, unease settling in her stomach. Who could it be this time? She glanced at Ryan, whose brow furrowed with concern, and then at Jason, who wore a mask of defiance, arms crossed tightly over his chest. It felt as if they were all caught in some strange game of life and death, poised on a precipice that could tip them into chaos. Mark opened the door slowly, revealing another figure. It was Clara, Jake's older sister, and she looked just as concerned as they felt. "I heard about the landlord," she said, her voice steady but filled with a gravity that matched their own. "I need to talk to you all. I didn't want to rush over, but this can't wait." "Great," Jason muttered under his breath, clearly annoyed. "Just what we need, more people complicating things." "Maybe we need more voices," Ryan countered, his eyes darting between the two. "We don't really know what we're dealing with here." Clara stepped inside, her presence oddly calming. "I've been doing some digging of my own," she said, addressing the group. "What Jake said is true, but there are more layers. I'm concerned that something larger is in play. Rumor has it this landlord has ties to some pretty rough folks." The air grew heavier as the implications of her words sunk in. Emily felt a mix of dread and determination. "So what do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly with suppressed anxiety. "What does this mean for us?" "You need to be careful," Jake interjected. "If he's involved with these people, it's not just about living arrangements anymore. We could be in serious danger." Clara nodded, her expression somber. "We need to gather evidence and protect ourselves. This isn't just about fighting back. We might need to involve the authorities if things get out of hand." Emily shifted in her seat, memories of past fights, arguments, and betrayals surfacing. The thought of being cornered by someone like their landlord made her sick. She looked at Jason, then Ryan, each of them grappling with their own unease. "Are we really ready for this? To confront something so dangerous?" "It's not about being ready," Jason replied, his voice suddenly softening. "It's about survival. We've come too far to back down now." Ryan reached for Emily's hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "Emily, whatever happens, we face it together. We're stronger as a unit." His words ignited a fire within her, pushing aside the fear that threatened to swallow her whole. "Then let us do this," she stated, feeling a surge of courage. "Let us gather everything we can. We'll build our case and stand our ground." The resolve in the room solidified like concrete, as if their shared fear had transformed into a shared purpose. Just as the weight of their determination settled, the door swung open again, and this time a man entered, his face shadowed and familiar. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his voice low and threatening, sending a chill down Emily's spine. Realization washed over the group. They had remained too complacent. They hadn't just stirred the pot. They had opened the door to the storm. Could they face this looming threat head-on? Or was this the moment everything unraveled? As she stood facing this new adversary, Emily felt her heart pounding in her chest. She knew they had to figure out how far they were willing to go. But could they navigate the peril of the situation? Or would the shadows of their choices consume them? Emily's breath caught in her throat as the man stepped further into the room, blocking the doorway like a dark cloud. She recognized him, the landlord's smug smile twisting into something more sinister. His eyes scanned the room, assessing the tension that pulsed like an electric current. "What are you doing here, John?" Mark asked, his voice betraying a hint of fear. John leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed over his chest, exuding an air of casual menace. I heard some interesting conversations happening around here," he said, a dangerous grin forming on his lips. "Thought I'd drop by and see if there was trouble brewing. Looks to me like you've bitten off more than you can chew." Emily could feel Ryan's grip tighten around her hand, anchoring her amidst the chill that crept into the room. Jason stood tall, attempting to project strength, but it was evident that doubt flickered in his eyes. "What do you want?" Clara asked, her voice steady but edged with irritation. "You have no right to threaten us." John pushed off the doorframe, moving closer, invading their space. "See, that's where you're wrong. I have every right. You see, I run this place and I don't appreciate people poking their noses into things they don't understand. It's bad for business." The threat lingered in the air, heavy and suffocating. Emily exchanged glances with Ryan and Jason, a silent agreement forming. They were not just victims here, they had a right to stand their ground. You don't scare us, Emily found her voice, surprising even herself. We know what you've been up to. Your shady dealings won't go unnoticed. John laughed, a harsh, condescending sound that sent shivers down her spine. Oh honey, sweet little Emily. You really think you can take me on? You think playing detective is going to get you anywhere? With each word he closed the distance, an unsettling confidence radiating from him like heat from a fire. Emily's heart raced, but deep inside, something stirred, a quiet rebellion rising to the surface. Why are you here, John? Ryan asked, voice firm. If you're looking to intimidate us, it won't work. The laughter faded from John's face, replaced by a steely glint. I'm here because I want you to understand your place. You really don't want to mess with my business, and I'll do everything to keep my affairs in order. So, how about we call it a day? You don't mention my name to anyone, and I'll let you keep your little lives. No deal, Clara shot back. We're not backing down. This isn't just your business. It's our lives. You've crossed a line. The atmosphere crackled with tension as Emily felt the air thicken. They had thrown down the gauntlet, and this felt irrevocable. John's expression hardened, teeth gritted in a snarl. Well, I hope you're ready for the consequences, he spat, stepping back with an unsettling calmness. You've made it personal. Enjoy your little fight. I promise it won't end well for you. With that, he turned and left, the door slamming shut behind him, shaking the very foundation of their resolve. Silence filled the room, heavy and thick as they processed the encounter. Is this really what we're up against? Jason whispered, uncertainty lacing his words. Emily felt a rush of adrenaline mixed with dread. They weren't just fighting for their home anymore. They were fighting for their very safety. We have to act fast, she asserted, fear transforming into an urgent mission. We need more information and we need to be ready. Ryan nodded, determination etched on his face. Together we can do this. But we have to stay alert. There's no turning back. Feeling a renewed sense of purpose, Emily glanced around, taking in the determined faces of her friends. Whatever lay ahead would test their strength. She just hoped it wouldn't shatter them as they huddled close, brainstorming their next move. An unexpected knock echoed through the room. A second chance or another threat. Emily held her breath, wondering if they could handle whatever came through that door next. Would they have what it takes to protect each other, or was the weight of fear beginning to pull them apart? Emily's heart raced as the knock echoed again, vibrating against the walls of their fragile unity. Each pulse of her heartbeat felt like a countdown, pushing them further toward an inevitable confrontation. Were they ready for whatever awaited them behind that door? Who could it possibly be now? Jason muttered, his irritation bubbling back to the surface. I don't know, but we have to find out, Emily replied, her voice steady, fueled by an urgency she'd never felt before. She glanced at Ryan, who nodded, determination written across his face. They had to face this. Together as Mark approached the door, Emily felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Who was brave enough to cross their threshold after all of this? Mark's hand gripped the doorknob, and with a deep breath, he swung the door open. Standing outside was a group, an unexpected coalition of neighbors, friends, and familiar faces from the community. Mrs. Harrington was at the forefront, her presence still as steady as before, but this time she was flanked by others who had come to lend their support. People gathered from their homes, drawn together by a whisper of concern that had traveled through the air, unifying them as a community. Emily, we heard about what's been happening. We want to help, Mrs. Harrington declared, the fire of solidarity bright in her eyes. Emily's breath caught in her throat. This was an answer she hadn't anticipated. A surge of collective strength just when she needed it the most. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion, but things are complicated, we know, a neighbor chimed in. But we also know John. We hear things. People are afraid of him, but that fear doesn't have to rule us anymore. With that, one by one more voices joined in. Stories of shared experiences and small acts of resistance began to weave together in the air. Each tale, each nod of agreement strengthened the bond between them. Emily felt warmth blossoming in her chest, hope blooming through despair as they entered the home. A newfound determination filled the space. They gathered around the kitchen table, and for the first time, It felt like they were all on the same team, battling against the same adversary. "We need a plan," Ryan said, his voice clear and assertive. "If John thinks we're isolated, we can show him he's mistaken." Clara stepped forward, her gaze resolute. "We'll gather evidence, watch his movements, find out everything we can. Together we can make a case." "It's more than just proof," Jason added, frustration creeping into his tone. "We need to stand together. No more hiding. We can't be afraid anymore." The room grew electric with anticipation. Emily felt that fire forging deep connections among them. "We can hold community meetings," Mark suggested. "Keep everyone informed, and create a united front. Together we are stronger." Encouraged, Emily nodded. "This isn't just about my family. It's about all of us. A community working together can change the narrative." As the conversation flowed, plans began to take shape. The air felt lighter, charged with possibility. They knew fear wouldn't disappear overnight, but they could face their challenges together. And just like that, the atmosphere shifted, aligning their collective focus. Emily took a deep breath, glancing at the faces around her, supportive, fierce, determined. For the first time, the years of pain and distance began to heal with every heartbeat. As they wrapped up their plan, laughter broke out, tentative at first but gaining strength. The resilience they felt poured over like a warm blanket. They were no longer merely victims. They were warriors ready to reclaim their lives. Standing at the threshold of change, Emily smiled. "Together we can rebuild. Together we can fight." In that moment, as the last sunbeam dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow around them, Emily felt a rush of joy mingled with hope. She was no longer defined by her past. Instead, she was becoming a beacon for others. For the first time in a long while, she not only envisioned a brighter future, she felt it bubbling beneath the surface, ready to burst forth. "Let us do this," she declared, her voice steady. With renewed energy, they took the first steps toward a future they had almost lost. And in the quiet that followed, a shared understanding filled the room. Love, family, and community could transform the darkest of moments into the light of new beginnings. Now, as a united front, they were finally free to embrace the life they deserved. If this story has touched your heart, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and hit that like button to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. And wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your engagement matters. Let us build this community together.